So Elaine, would you like to tell us about what you've been doing up until the point that you wrote The Descent of Woman?
Well, before I got into this field at all, I was married to a schoolmaster in Wales. I had 3 sons, and I had begun a career as a television scriptwriter and playwright.
And what sort of scripts had you written up to that point?
I'd written serials and Dr. Finlay's casebook and a small sitcom and some biographies of people like Lloyd George and Marie Curie and people like this.
And what got you interested in, well, why did you write The Descent of Woman? Let's make it a more open question.
I wrote The Descent of Woman because I was incensed by the books that were being written then by people like Robert Ardrey and Desmond Morris, who said that the human race emerged as a result of becoming man the hunter and very bloodthirsty and killing one another, and his mate was hardly ever mentioned. And I thought it was about time we restored the balance.
And what about the Aquatic Ape Hypothesis? When did your interest begin in that?
Well, I thought if I was going to write this book and say I don't believe that we became different from the apes because man was a hunter and went out to the savannah, there must be some other reason. And I looked and looked for some other reason, and in The Naked Ape there was just half a page mentioning Alistair Hardy's theory that perhaps it had something to do with the water. And I thought, this is right, he must be right. That answers all the questions.
And did you ever get to meet Alistair Hardy?
I met him after the book was published. He was delighted with it. Some people said that he had only mentioned his theory as a joke, and this woman had been silly enough to take it seriously. But he certainly knocked that on the head, because my second book had a foreword by Alistair Hardy.
Great. And could you, like, in about a minute, give us a description of the Aquatic Ape Hypothesis?
The hypothesis says that of all the differences between ourselves and the apes, a great number of them have never been explained, but can be explained if you compare us with aquatic animals. Most of the naked animals, like the dolphins and the hippopotamus, live in water. Most of the animals with a fat layer under their skin, like penguins and seals and whales, live under the water, and we're like that. And it explains the reason why we can talk and apes can't, because only diving mammals and diving birds can control their breath. An ape can't even be trained to say ah because of his lungs. So all these things point to the idea that 6 or 7 million years ago there was a brief period when we spent a lot of our time in the water.
And am I right in saying that you had quite a lot of from the scientific establishment over the years?
I have had not so much flack as a steady policy of pretending this has not happened and it's too silly to be worth arguing about. But that is now, I'm glad to say, coming to an end.
Oh, tell us a bit more about that.
Well, they all said that the reason why we are different is because we went out onto the hot savannah. And within the last 5 years, they have had to say, we were wrong about the savannah, we are back to square one, we must think again. And that's one thing that has happened. Another thing that's happened is that I've written 5 books, and they've been getting gradually more respectful reviews. The last one was reviewed in Nature, and the gist of it was, well, she's certainly got her act together by now.
So are there any famous scientists in the field who really have come on board entirely and say, yes, I think she's right, or are they still wavering?
The main one is Professor Philip Tobias, who is the biggest one in South Africa, and he was the one who discovered Homo habilis, and he was partly the shaper of the savannah theory, and he's the one who said, no, we've got to scrap it. And there are others. Well, David Attenborough, in his last series on mammals, suggested that the most likely reason why we stood upright is bipedalism, is the aquatic theory.
Right. And how about in the academic world? Is the theory being taught at all in universities?
There are some universities that do invite papers on it and encourage the reading of books on it. Most of them ignore it. I get papers from letters and emails from all over the world saying, look, I've taken a course in human evolution. Nobody told me about this. I never heard about it. And I think that should be put right.
Mm-hmm. And you know, this evening there's a sister of someone you know who's studying in Australia. Would you like to talk about him a bit?
This is Algis Kouliakis. And he said he wanted to drop the job he was in and become an anthropologist, and he went and got qualified in college, and he wanted to get a job in a university, and he was told, well, there is no reason why you can't come out to our university in Australia, unless, of course, you were attached to some crackpot theory like the aquatic ape theory. Nevertheless, they took him, and he's doing his own research into it now.
Okay, so what did you think when I contacted you about coming to Teignmouth?
I thought, at that time I was a bit younger and had a bit more energy, and I thought, yes, this is great. It was some years ago, I believe, by now. By the time the thing got sorted out, I thought, well, it's a long way to go, but I'm delighted I came. It's a beautiful place, and this is a beautiful centre.
Lovely. Thank you very much.